Domestic violence. Domestic violence is one of the most horrible things that people experience. The very person who loves you hurts you. The psychological twists and turns within those relationships is horribly amazing to try to see. In some cases, you find the abused party getting emotional satisfaction out of the process. What we hear about the cycle of abuse, you've heard that before, haven't you? What the cycle of abuse is, it really isn't a cycle. It's kind of a peak and a valley, a peak and a valley. And here's where it starts out. The relationship's rocking along, rocky, it gets worse, the stress builds up, everybody gets more and more uptight. Oftentimes, because women have generally superior verbal skills, they'll be more verbally aggressive. And often a man who's less verbally skilled will become physical, and then there'll be violence. And it's not always the man hitting the woman. There are women who hit men. But whatever happens is, bang, that happens, and then suddenly the person who committed the violence feels very guilty, and the stress level drops off. The guilty feeling person brings flowers, cooks special dinners, takes you out, treats you like you feel like you ought to be treated. And this is wonderful, and it feels really good, and there's a positive reinforcement from it. But here's the really bad thing. There's this positive reinforcement from being hurt. And if that happens over and over and over and over again, there are people who get locked into that cycle. The abuser and the abusee get locked into that, and the only thing that can break that apart is a divorce. And that is difficult to do. People will want to go back into that abused relationship because they've got some feeling of security there. They at least know what's going to happen. When they get out into the real world, they're afraid of the unknown, afraid of what's going on out there. What two adults decide to do about themselves is one thing. The abuse that they may get something out or not something out, however bad and problematic that is for them. The issue is completely different when they have children. When they have children, the children grow up. The way children grow up is they look at mom and dad. And when they look at mom and dad behave, they think, that's how I'm supposed to behave. So if children grow up in a house where there's abuse, they will be abusers. Not absolutely, positively certain there will be, but statistically the odds are that that makes it much more likely. So if you're enjoying those flowers and dates at the end, at the pleasant side of the abuse cycle, and your children are watching that, they're learning that that's acceptable behavior. So what do? Let's decide that physical abuse is bad and will not be accepted or tolerated in a relationship. So what do? The laws moved very far in terms of that during my practice. Now you can get what are known as orders of protection. And when you go to court and you get an order of protection, then if the police are called, they're supposed to arrest a physically aggressive party. So one of the important things is if the police show up, don't yell at the police, because police interpret physically aggressive party often as whoever's yelling at them, okay? So don't yell at the police, be nice to the police. That's actually a good rationale pretty much any time. Always be nice to people with guns. Police tend to carry guns, be nice to them. It works well for you. But in the domestic violence situation, if the police are called, they're supposed to arrest someone. You can go to your lawyer and they can get you an ex parte order of protection, which is good for a short period of time. It will keep your spouse away from you and protect you from your spouse. You've got to show that there's been some violence or property destruction or several specific things. Then there's a hearing, and then a permanent order of protection can be issued. Now, the court can issue injunctions that also have some of the same effects, but order of protection are the most vital. If your spouse then abuses you, they're in the criminal court and can be put in jail. Do they always get put in jail? Not all the time, sometimes not often enough. Are there false allegations? Yes. And that's one of the things the court has to wade through. Is this allegation real, or is this person dummying this up to try to get an advantage in a divorce case? Because any divorce lawyer with any experience has seen that, and the judges oftentimes have a very difficult thing to have to decide. Of course, sometimes it can become real easy. Sometimes the proof is really obvious. A scratch, no, scratch is not proof. People get scratches, people can scratch themselves. Some of the most obvious proofs are video recordings. Right now, almost everybody's carrying around their own video recorder. Turning on your iPhone, your Droid, or whatever the video recorder is on your cell phone can make a extraordinarily powerful and useful proof of what's going on. Because when those abusers get mad, the reason is gone altogether. There are cases where people even tell them, I'm recording this, and have the phone out, and they'll say, I don't care, and you can tell that judge, I don't care either, I'm getting ready to whip you, and then it goes downhill from there. Those cases become very, very easy to prove. So, document what's going on. Cell phones are a wonderful way to document it because almost everybody has cell phones on them all the time. The video portion of that cell phone is usually even more useful than just the audio recording. And heck, sometimes it's even easier to operate. If you are a person who abuses, get into counseling. There are problems with you, there are problems with this relationship that are causing you to do things that you know you shouldn't do. Can you fix it yourself? No. If you could, you would have. But you can get into counseling. You can learn anger management skills. You can learn why you have these problems, and you can step beyond it. And you have to do that for your spouse if you want to stay in your marriage. And if you have children, you have an even bigger reason. So, domestic violence, it's a horrible thing. Getting cured from it, keeping it away from your children is a critical thing. Thank you.